that amount will come to the forefront of my mind. Thereupon his brothers, sons and nephews, and the sons of Abdullah bin Jaffer addressed Abu Abdullah, may it not happen for us to outlive you, O Hussein. May Allah never show us the incident where you are killed and we remain alive. From amongst them, Abbas started talking, and after him the rest of the companions said the same. Then Imam al-Hussein turned to the sons of Muslim ibn Aqil and said, your family have suffered enough with the killing of Hazrat Muslim. Return home, I give you permission. Nevertheless, they replied that they would not be able to justify deserting their Imam and leader. Rather, they insisted on their loyalty, would sacrifice their property, their lives, their sons, and would fight in company with him to the last drop. Another companion who stood up and spoke was Hazrat Muslim ibn Awsaja, who said, how should we stop helping you? If so, what would be our justification before Allah? I swear by Allah, I will never part with you until I pierce the chests of your enemies with my spear. I will fight them so hard and so long as my sword is with me. And when I remain weaponless, I would confront them by throwing rocks and stones at them until I breathe my last breath. Sa'ad bin Abdullah, another companion of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, stood up and said, by Allah, we will never abstain from helping you until Allah knows that we protected the sanctity of the Prophet that is preserved in you, O Hussein. By Allah, if I knew that I would be killed and burnt and my ashes would be given life again 70 times, I would never abandon you, O Hussein. However, I know that death will only be once, after which there is endless divine grace. Zuhair bin Qayn stood up and said, O grandson of the Prophet of Allah, by Allah, I would rather be killed and then revived 1,000 times in support of you. Moreover, I wish my being killed, I would sacrifice my life for you and the Hashemid youths. Muhammad bin Bashir al-Hadrami, a companion of Imam, received the news that his son had been arrested. As you know, at this time, the governor of Kufa had been actively arresting the Shia. Imam al-Hussein said to him that he was free to go and rescue his son. In response, Muhammad bin Bashir said, by Allah, I will never leave you. And then he said, I wish to be killed by the beasts of the deserts if I dare leave you, O Hussein. To contribute to rescuing Muhammad bin Bashir's son, Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam gave him a few costly clothes, gave it to him and said, sell these in order to rescue your son. Ask yourself, and I ask myself, what are the motivations behind coming to this majlis? Why am I here tonight? Really, what do I seek to gain from tonight's majlis of Al-Abbas? What do I seek to gain out of these 11 and 12 nights? His Eminence, Grand Ayatollah Sayyid Muhammad Taqi al-Mudarrisi, may Allah preserve him for us, the Marja of Karbala, when Zawar come to visit him and ask about how do I benefit from Imam? How do I benefit from the ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein? The Marja gives some nasiha. We were present in one of them and he said the following. He said, imagine you have been playing some sort of game outside. You've been playing football outside. When you play football, You're on the grass, you get muddy, you go in for a tackle, you get sweaty, your clothes become dirty, your body becomes dirty. Then you go into the shower and you purify yourself. You cleanse yourself completely. You make sure you use the soap, you use the shampoo, all the mud comes off, you smell good again. You're presentable again. Clean. He says, is there anyone in their right mind that they come out of the shower clean and then go straight back into the dirt again? Is that logical? Is that what someone does? No. In the same way, a person who comes for the Majlis of Hussein, the one who goes for the ziyarah of Hussein, commits himself to Imam al-Hussein, they come here with all of this baggage and all of these sins and all of these things that they need to purify themselves from. They go to the Majlis of Hussein, they cleanse themselves, they smell the most beautiful of smell upon themselves. Does that person go straight back into the dirt that they were playing in before? Do they go back into the same sins that they were doing before? It would be the same illogic that we would use to go back into the same sins that I was carrying before me and not have some change in my life. This is the motivation for coming here. Amongst the ulama is an important and leading scholar by the name of Ayatollah Sayyid Jaffer Murtada al-Amili. May Allah bless him for his works. Sayyid Jaffer al-Amili has written a number of works and has in there question and answers on the motivations for coming to the Majlis of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. And in it, he mentions the following. He says that when you hear these lines and slogans of Imam, they are not to be kept as simply slogans, but we must reflect deeply on the meanings of these words in order for them to penetrate the heart and become not only motivational factors, but the slogans by which we live the entirety of our lives. He gives an example. This line, هَلْ مِن نَاصِرٍ يَنْصُرْنِي, who is going to come to my aid? Who will come to the aid of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam? What is the meaning of such a slogan? How does it, if I actually understand it better, how can it help me to live Hussein and that call throughout time? Whereas again, I repeat, if I understand it in a very limited way, what happens is I make the slogan, the saying of Imam very, very limited. He says the following. The first understanding of such a saying, who is there to aid me? He says, note, for sure, believe with the depth of your heart and being, there exists a divine mission. It might be that someone thinks that after the Prophet died, there is no more divine mission. Or a person may think that only after Ali ibn Abi Talib, there is no divine mission. He says, no, there exists a divine mission. You can see it in this statement. Which other human being could stand up and say, هَلْ مِن نَاصِرٍ يَنْصُرْنَا? Who could claim these words other than Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam? It teaches us the notion of not despairing and not abandoning this divine mission, even if we are on the verge of death itself. Why? Because you can see through the movement of Hussein that there is something greater than us that exists out there. Second, it emphasizes that the human being should be principled in their stances, not driven by their personal interests, but the interests of the divine call. Third, this call, هَلْ مِن نَاصِرٍ يَنْصُرْنِي, teaches us that speech is not really limited to those who are present. The things that me and you say go further and reach further to people. Imam's statement reaches far and wide until the end of time. It is also understood from this that we must make use of all methods in our invitation to support the truth. Imam used all methods, and by conveying Hal min Nasirin yansurana, it has reverberated throughout time to reach us. We have to use all methods to ensure it continues to reverberate. Next, he says, fulfilling the duty of making truth victorious is not contingent upon the fruit of physical victory alone. Rather, it suffices that truth remains alive in spirit and in the consciousness of people, because this remains the locus of human ambition and remains in people's hopes and ultimate desires. He then says, sacrificing for the sake of supporting truth, affirming it, is worthy of even a person's own life. When you hear Hal min Nasirin yansurana, do you think the Imam is only asking you to attend Majlis? Is that the meaning of Hal min Nasirin yansurana? Is it only to go on his ziyarah? Is it only to tweet and retweet? Is it only to invest in the Majlis? What is the highest form of giving that can be understood from this? If it requires even your life, nay, even your children, this is the required response to Hal min Nasirin yansurana.
Labbaik ya Hussein.
Labbaik ya Hussein.
Labbaik ya Hussein. Labbaik ya Hussein. Labbaik ya Hussein.
Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Ahsantum. And Ayatollah Sayyid Jaffer al-Amili says, the last thing that we may take from just this one line, Hal min Nasirin yansurana, is that we understand how much regret we would have if we don't respond to that call. It's the negative meaning. Answering it has all of these layers of meaning and detail. But not answering it is regret for the rest of our life. And then he goes on to say that when people debate, is this an emotional gathering? Is this a political movement? When you hear people using the name of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam in one way or another, that some people only want to do ma'tam, and others they only want to raise the flag of government through Imam. He says, which one is right? He says, after all, many people understand the language of emotions more than they understand the language of intellect. Not everyone has the same level of intellect. Not everyone takes time to read all books and understand the depth of sources and opinions that are. Not everyone has that capacity and motivation. But he says that everyone can unite on the emotion of Karbala. Which human being hears about Aliyun al-Azghar and does not cry for it? So it may move them when the oppressed calls for support and says, Hal min Nasirin yansurana, while a mountain of books and intellectual proofs may not actually find a way to reach a person's required threshold of evidence. Meanwhile, the conscience and emotions respond to a call. Therefore, the emotion of Karbala is absolutely necessary. And then he says, but we must not think of it as only emotion. What are the motivations and understandings of coming here? He says, Karbala consists of all that the soul of truth seekers desire and upright people pursue. Its features include creed, Islamic law, Islamic policies, Quranic concepts, the exegesis and interpretation of the Quran, the fragrance of the divine leadership of prophethood, the mission of the prophets themselves, the achievements, responsibilities, and purviews of the trustees of the prophets, the manifestation of the Imam's knowledge, the degrees of their infallibility, the wonders of karamat and miracles, and even more than this, the characteristics of the Ahlul Bayt, salawatullah wa salamuhu alayhim ajma'een. It is in Karbala that the human and Islamic personality is built. What is your motivation from coming here? Ayatollah said, Jaffer Amali says, your personality should be built from the personalities of Karbala. That feelings, emotions, and sensations are shaped, nurtured, developed, and perfected through Karbala. It is in Karbala that evil is distinguished from good. In Karbala, one finds political theory and creedal concepts. In Karbala, one finds practice of politics and policy, as well as the stance of beliefs, ethics, religion, and humanity. Karbala is not merely a historical, political, or military event, nor is it simply a tragedy whereby once we have finished presenting the aspects of the tragedy, that we forget the causes or consequences of the tragedy. Or after we have concluded the mourning rituals and crying, that the causes and the consequences of the crying are forgotten. It is not merely political activity either, whereby we do not need it after we have come to know the emotional aspects. Likewise, it is also not merely an intellectual luxury whose effects end and whose impacts are limited to the horizons of imaginations we set in. Let me read you this last line. The Karbala of Hussein, the Karbala that you come to weep over, that you come to create policy and politics over, the Karbala that you come for, the Karbala of Imam al-Hussein is embodied Imam al-Hussein himself. If you want to understand Hussein, understand Karbala. If you want to understand Karbala, understand Hussein.
Husseyniyat! Zindabad! Husseyniyat!
Zindabad.
Yazidiyat! Murdabad! Yazidiyat! Murdabad! Dushman Ahl Bayt Balanat!
According to the Maqtal, Abu Fadl Abbas alayhi salam asked Imam on a number of occasions to enter the battlefield. And each time the Imam refused him. Abbas had been created for this day. But think about this deeply. Even Imam did not allow Abbas's own motivations to dictate the entering of Abbas into the battlefield. How many times have you heard the reason for Abbas's birth was to defend Imam? That's why Amir al-Mu'mineen chose the mother of Abbas, salamullahi alayha. But every time he comes and says, now, Ya Mawlai, now may I enter into the battlefield, please. Abbas is crying to Hussein, Master, your Akbar has gone and I am still here. You've allowed Aun and Muhammad children to go, but not me. Subhanallah. You have even allowed Qasim, a young boy of 13, your nephew, to go, but not your brother. Each time he would place his hand on his chest and say, Abbas, now is not the time. After every one of the adult men had been martyred, Abbas comes to Hussein and says, "Oh, Master Hussein, allow me to enter into the battlefield." Imam responds by saying, "Oh Abbas, if you go, who will command my army?" This line is not mentioned in the Maqtal. I want to say it. I imagine that Abbas looks at Hussein. He must have pointed towards the battlefield. He must have pointed to the tents where there are bodies lying one after the other. And he must have said, "Oh Master Hussein, which army do you speak of? There is no one left but me and you." One of the ulama makes a most profound point in his gham. He says this. He says, if you look at the Maqtal, every one of the shuhada was told to go and give their farewell to the ladies. Do you know why? Because none of them expected to return. If you are sending Akbar out, you know that he is not going to come back. So you bid your farewell. Akbar, we will see you on the day of judgment. We will see you in the akhirah. Abbas never went to say farewell to the women and children. Do you know why? Because they all expected him to come back with water. Abbas, don't go out for my sake. My daughter Sakina is crying. I can't count the number of times she has brought the mushk to me. If she opens it and pours it down, not a single drop of water comes out. Abbas, go for Sakina. Go for Ruqayya. Go for the children. Here is the mushk. Go and take it and bring water. What happened was that he did not say farewell to any of them because they all expected Abbas to return. Sakina was expecting her uncle to come back with water. Abbas ascends onto the horse, and he is such a giant of a figure that his feet are dragging. His feet are low. This is how huge a man he is, how much of a warrior he is. One of the Maqtal says that as he is riding towards the banks of the river Euphrates, he is introducing himself and he is telling them his motivation. He is saying, "The children of Hussein are thirsty. I am not here to fight you. All I want is some water." There are some that say that hearing this, they parted ways in order to be able to allow Abbas to arrive at the banks of the river Euphrates. Others say that Abbas fought his way to the banks of the river Euphrates. Nevertheless, when he, with his flag, arrived at the banks of the river Euphrates, he placed his hands into the cold water. His motivation, his niyyah was tested. Abbas took the water in the hands, and then he said, "Oh Nafsul Abbas, oh the soul of yourself, what are you doing? Does water tempt you whilst Hussein is thirsty, whilst his children are begging for water?" He placed the mushk inside the river Euphrates, he filled it up and ascended back onto the horse to be able to return. But it's at this moment that the hearts of the enemies became even harder, for they said, "Do not allow a single drop of water to return back." I want you to imagine this scene. I want you to imagine that Abbas is beginning to ride back. He has his flag with him. I want you to imagine Sakina standing outside the tent. She has been telling everyone in the tent, Abbas is going to get water. my uncle will not let me down. She sees the flag of Abbas reach the tents, and then she sees the flag starting to come back. I imagine that Sakina must have gone back into the tents and said to all the children, I see my Abbas coming back. He must have water with him. And then I imagine the next time she runs out of the tents, she does not see the flag of Abbas any longer. What does Sakina say to the children? As Abbas is beginning to ride out, they begin to shower him. I want you to understand what 4,000 arrows must have been like. I want you to understand that when they surrounded Abbas with every weapon that they had, their intention was not simply to stop water. Their intention was to cut him into pieces. What happened? As Abbas is beginning to ride back, a man comes from the right-hand side and strikes the right arm of Abu Fadl. A man comes from the left side and strikes the arm of Abu Fadl. It is said that he places the mushk within his mouth. It's at that point they begin to shower Abbas with arrows. At least 3 hit him that we know of. The first arrow that hit him went into the eye of Abu Fadl al-Abbas so that he could not see. The second arrow pierced into the chest of Abu Fadl al-Abbas. The third arrow hit the mushk and the water begins to fall, and the hopes of Abbas begins to fall with that water. The Maqtal says that after Abbas's arms are cut, after he is showered with arrows, he stops his horse. It is said that he stays there in a state of being dazed, in a state of confusion. Maybe the reason why is that he doesn't know what to do now. How do I fight without any arms? Do I go back towards the tent? Do I let Sakina see me in this state? Do I let her see the mushk without any water? Abbas is dazed and confused. He doesn't know what to do. One of the senior ulama says that I had the dream of Abu Fadl on the night of the 8th of Muharram. I recited his gham. He came to me in my dream. Abu Fadl said, "Oh Sayyid, you don't know what happened to me on the 10th of Muharram." The Sayyid said, "Tell me what happened." Do you know what he said? Abbas said, in order to be able to see one way or another, to remove the arrow from my eye, I didn't have hands to do it. So I put my head down and I put it towards my knees in the hope that I would use my knees to be able to pull the arrow out of my eye. At that moment, when I had my head bowed, a person came from behind. He had a lance with him and he struck the head of Abu Fadl Abbas. This is how Abbas was struck, and he fell towards the ground. In another musibah, it is said that he entered into the dreams of one of the reciters of his gham, and he said, Lady Fatima entered into the dream of one of the reciters of the gham. She said, "I'll tell you what happened to my son Abbas on the 10th of Muharram." That gham he had recited, he had said the hardest thing for Abu Fadl was when he was struck by an arrow, or when he had his arms cut off. Sayyidah Fatima entered into the dream of this alim and said, "I will tell you the hardest thing for Abbas." The hardest thing for Abbas was that when he was struck on his head and he fell towards the ground, every other martyr, they had arms to break their fall. Abbas did not have any arms to break his fall. He landed on his face, meaning that the arrow went further into his eye. One of the ulama says that when they were digging up parts of the grave around the river Furat to ensure that there was no water entering into the grave of Abu Fadl, one of the ulama just sat down beside the grave of Abbas and began to weep uncontrollably. After some time, they went to him and said, "Why are you crying like this?" He said, "Throughout the Maqtal, I heard Abbas was a giant figure. Look at the size of this grave. It is so small." In the Maqtal, it says that when he fell, the enemies surrounded him. وَقَطَّعُوهُ إِرْبًا إِرْبًا, that they cut him into pieces. This is how we know the Maqtal is true, because we see the grave of Abu Fadl. With his last breaths, Abbas calls out, "Brother, come to my aid. Brother, come and help a brother." Imam al-Hussein cries out, "My back has been broken." He goes towards the river Euphrates. As he comes out, it is said that he charges like a lion and he disperses the enemies like a sheep. All I want you to imagine is, what does Hussein see when he arrives at the body of his brother Abbas? And then I want you to imagine what Abbas must have said to Hussein. "Oh Hussein, my master, my brother, leave me here by the banks of the river Euphrates. I don't want anyone to see me. Especially I don't want Sakina to see me in this state." I want you to imagine that Imam al-Hussein is walking back towards the camps, and there is a last shred of hope in the heart of Sakina. She does not want to see the mosque. All she wants to see is her uncle Abbas. But what does she see? She sees her father Hussein coming on his own. I want you to imagine Sakina running to Hussein. "Father, where is my uncle Abbas?"
रिदा ज़ैनब की हाय होते अब्बास तो छिनती ना रिदा ज़ैनब की पाँव में आबिद मुज़तर के न बेड़ी डलती हाय ताज़ियाने भी न मारे जाते काश अब्बास न मारे जाते काश अब्बास न मारे जाते काश अब्बास न मारे जाते होते अब्बास दिलावर तो न ख़ैमे जलते है शाम गुर्बत न सकीना को तमाचे लगते है गोशवारे ना उतारे जाते काश अब्बास न मारे जाते इस तरह लगती नाक पर के कलेजे में सिना इस तरह होती न सादात के खैमों में फुगा है यूं न ज़ैनब के सहारे जाते काश अब्बास न मारे जाते है काश अब्बास عباس نہ مارے گئے جاتے، ہائے کاش عباس نہ مارے گئے جاتے، آج بھی آتی ہے یہ قبر سکینہ سے صدا، اے چچا لاتی نہ زندان میں یوں غم کو قضا، ساتھ گر غم بھی تمہارے گئے جاتے، کاش عباس نہ مارے گئے جاتے، اے کاش عباس نہ مارے گئے جاتے، کاش عباس نہ مارے گئے جاتے، یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین، ادھر سے جو ہے ادھر بلا لیں تھوڑا، آپ ادھر کھولیں گے وہ ادھر ایکسپینڈ ہوں گے۔ یا حسین 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 یا حسین، جلتے ہوئے خیموں سے زینب کی صدا آئے، عباس کہاں ہو تم، جلتے ہوئے خیموں سے زینب کی صدا آئے، عباس کہاں ہو تم، نہ سر پہ رہی چادر، نہ سر پہ رہی چادر، نہ میرا بچا بھائی، عباس کہاں ہو تم، جلتے ہوئے خیموں سے زینب کی صدا آئے، عباس کہاں ہو تم۔ جواد can you turn that speaker towards me a little bit؟ اجرکم اللہ اجرکم اللہ، پڑھتے آؤ۔ عباس کہاں ہو تم، جلتے ہوئے خیموں سے، نام مولا سن کے ماتم کرنا، مصائب سنتے ہو پھر مل کے ماتم کریں گے، تے ہوئے خیموں سے عباس چلے آؤ، خیموں میں غریبوں کے بھوکے اور پیاسے ہیں، لوٹے ہیں نصیبوں کے، سجاد کو ہوش نہیں، سجاد کو ہوش نہیں، کلثوم ہے گھبرائے، عباس کہاں ہو تم، جلتے ہوئے خیموں سے زینب کی صدا آئے، عباس کہاں ہو تم، جلتے ہوئے خیموں سے آئے، عباس کہاں ہو تم، جیو مولا کا ماتمی خیر ہو ہر دم، پڑھتے ہو نام مولا ہو تم، جلتے ہوئے خیموں سے، بسم اللہ، جلتے ہوئے خیموں سے، سن کے نام مولا سن کے، ہو تم، جلتی ہوئی ریتی پہ مظلوم کی لاش پڑی، ہے سکینہ بھی بابا کے پاس کھڑی، اے غال یتیمانہ، اے غال یتیمانہ، غربت کی گھٹا چھائے، عباس کہاں ہو تم، جلتے ہوئے خیموں سے زینب کی صدا آئے، عباس کہاں ہو تم، جلتے ہوئے خیموں سے اللہ مجل ولی کل فراش ہو تم جلتے ہوئے خیموں سے زینب کی صدا آئی، عباس کہاں ہو تم، ہائے شمر کمینے نے معصوم سکینہ کے مارے ہیں تماچے بھی، ہائے پھول سے گالوں پہ، آ جاؤ چچا غازی، آ جاؤ چچا غازی، رو رو کے وہ چلائے، عباس کہاں ہو تم، جلتے ہوئے خیموں سے زینب کی صدا آئے، عباس کہاں ہو تم، جلتے ہوئے خیموں سے زینب کی صدا آئی، عباس کہاں ہو تم، جلتے ہوئے خیموں سے زینب کی صدا آئی، عباس کہاں ہو تم، جلتے ہوئے خیموں سے زینب کی صدا آئی، عباس کہاں ہو تم، شبیر پڑا رن میں کئی روز کا پیاسا ہے، تیروں سے ہوا چھلنی مظلوم کا لاشا ہے، نہ کفن ملا اس کو، نہ کفن ملا اس کو، نہ قبر ہی بنوائے، عباس کہاں ہو تم، جلتے ہوئے خیموں سے زینب کی صدا آئے، عباس کہاں ہو تم، جلتے ہوئے خیموں سے زینب کی صدا آئی، عباس کہاں ہو تم، جلتے ہوئے خیموں سے زینب کی صدا آئی، عباس کہاں ہو تم، جلتے ہوئے خیموں سے زینب کی صدا آئی، عباس کہاں ہو تم، ہائے شمر کمینے نے معصوم سکینہ کے مارے ہیں تماچے بھی، ہائے پھول سے گالوں پہ، آ جاؤ چچا غازی، آ جاؤ چچا غازی، رو رو کے وہ چلائے، عباس کہاں ہو تم، جلتے ہوئے خیموں سے زینب کی صدا آئے، عباس کہاں ہو تم، جلتے ہوئے خیموں سے زینب کی صدا آئی، عباس 5 minutes، جلتے ہوئے خیموں سے زینب کی صدا جلتے ہوئے خیموں سے کلثوم نے سر پیٹا مقتل میں کھڑی ہو کے، آئے کانپتے ہاتھوں سے زینب نے رو رو کے دستار امامت کے، دستار امامت کے سجاد کو پہنائے۔ عباس کہاں ہو تم جلتے ہوئے خیموں سے زینب کی صدا آئے۔ عباس کہاں ہو تم جلتے ہوئے خیموں سے صدا آئے۔ نام مولا ایک بار بآواز بلند پڑھو۔ چلتے ہوئے خیموں سے زینب کی صدا آئی، عباس کہاں ہو تم؟ چلتے ہوئے خیموں سے زینب کی صدا آئی، عباس کہاں ہو تم؟ جلتے ہوئے خیموں سے زینب کی صدا آئی، عباس کہاں ہو تم؟ معصوم یتیموں کو پانی کی آس نہیں، غازی اب اصغر کے ہونٹوں پہ پیاس نہیں، شبیر نے لاش اس کی، شبیر نے لاش اس کی ہے ریت میں دفنائے۔ عباس کہاں ہو تم جلتے ہوئے خیموں سے زینب کی صدا آئے۔ عباس کہاں ہو تم؟ جلتے ہوئے خیموں سے زینب کی صدا آئے۔ عباس کہاں ہو تم جلتے ہوئے خیموں سے زینب کی صدا آئے۔ عباس کہاں ہو تم؟ عائش مر کمینے نے معصوم سکینہ کے مارے ہیں تماچے بھی، آئے پھول سے گالوں پہ آ جاؤ چچا غازی، آ جاؤ چچا غازی، رو رو کے وہ چلائے۔ عباس کہاں ہو تم جلتے ہوئے خیموں سے زینب کی صدا آئے۔ عباس کہاں ہو تم؟ تے ہوئے
کرتے ہیں ماتم حرم عباس کا۔
نہیں ہوگا، نہیں ہوگا تو میں کرتا ہوں۔
زینب کی صدا آئی، عباس کہاں ہو تم؟
ہائے ہائے زینب، ہائے ہائے شام، ہائے ہائے زینب، ہائے ہائے شام، ہائے ہائے زینب، ہائے ہائے شام، ہائے ہائے زینب، ہائے شام۔ شبیر کی وہ لاڈلی، شبیر کی وہ لاڈلی، شبیر کی وہ لاڈلی، شبیر کی وہ لاڈلی، سینے پہ جو شاہ پلی، 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 جس کی ابان میں جلی، جس کی ابان میں جلی، منہ جو لاچار تھا، چلنے سے جو لاچار تھا، اور شام کا بازار تھا، اور شام کا بازار تھا، اور مصطفیٰ کی بیٹیاں شبیر کی وہ لاڈلی، شبیر کی وہ لاڈلی، سینے پہ جو شاکے پلی، 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 جس کی ابابن میں جلی، جس کی ابابن میں جلی، منہ پر کمال